All right, so welcome to today's masterclass on the inner critic. This is an area that I feel is so important to dive into, especially if we're on our self love journeys, we're pursuing those things that ignite us and light us up. It can feel a bit vulnerable to lead with our heart. And the inner critic's design is to keep us safe. So at times it can feel that the inner critic is this harsh, mean voice. And when we really start to look at what the brain, what the body are doing when it comes to working together, there actually is a strategy and a purpose for the inner critic. So we will be diving more into this. Hello, Janet. It's lovely to see you on. But first, let's open up, let's ground. I'm sure we're all coming from something prior to this, or maybe we have things to flow afterwards. And let's just take this time to get really grounded with an intention on why are we here today? What is it about connecting with your inner critic that is inspiring you? It's nothing to fear that harsh voice in our mind. We get to give more empathy and compassion to these parts of ourselves. My name's Alicia. I'm a somatic practitioner, trauma informed yoga instructor. I'm also a Reiki master. So I'm very passionate around integrating mind, body, and spirit. And how do we do that? Right? It's about having this deeper understanding with ourselves, getting curious, having a gentle approach in the ways that we begin to form a relationship with ourselves. So when we start to heal the inner critic, we most certainly also begin to establish a secure attachment style. So if you haven't had the opportunity to take that secure attachment style, please check some of those prior emails and you will see that there as well as the workbook. So those who did download the workbook, I am going to be entering us into a raffle. You will have the opportunity to win a one-on-one somatic movement session. So stay tuned. We'll be doing that at the end of the call today. But let's open up with some breathing. Now that all of us are landed at home, let's just arrive here together. You did the quiz. Awesome. All right, so we're going to open with some breathing exercises. I wanted to introduce anulome-vilome breathing. When we look at what's going on with the inner critic, right, we're not necessarily as grounded and regulated in ourselves. We're in a reactive state. The nervous system is triggered. And how do we bring forth balance, clarity, connection? We can do that with our breath. And anulome-vilome specifically works with bringing balance for the right-left hemisphere of the brain. And when the inner critic is present, we most certainly have flipped our lid. So how do we nourish this beautiful brain that God has given us, right? It's about getting back and into the body. And we can do this through breath work. So you're going to bring your index finger and your middle finger in, and then your thumb will tuck it. And then you'll plug your right nostril. And we always start the left. And when I cue last breath, the last exhale will also come out of the left nostril. So we're going to start working with the Pinga and Ida nadis here. So we're nourishing the brain, but we're also nourishing the subtle energetic body. So we're bringing forth this balance between creativity and logic, the feminine and the masculine, and just this duality of this dance between lunar and solar. You can see that polarity shows up, right, in nature. So of course, polarity is going to exist within ourselves at times. We don't need to make it such a wrong thing when it happens. No shame over here. All right, so let's plug our right nostril. Let's wiggle our sit bones down. And we're going to possibly soften our eyes unless you need to use me as a visual here. And inhale through your left. Plug and then exhale out your right. Inhale through your right. Plug, exhale out the left. Maybe your eyelids begin to soften and close. As you continue to alternate nostril breathe, you may even notice this cool quality of your inhale. Just continue to breathe in the nose. Plug, switch, exhale. Do your airways feel open? Do the airways feel blocked? Just come into the subtle noticing, begin to witness your breath and the practice of anulom vilom. How is this breath moving through you? The left nostril represents the Ida nadi, the more feminine quality, that intuitive, supportive, nurturing aspect of ourself. And then the right side is the Pingala nadi, just more of our masculine, yang-like qualities. Provide, act, align, right? Taking that action. And just continue to alternate nostril breathe. Maybe you notice the quality of your breath starts to deepen. Maybe an airway begins to shift and start to open. Or maybe just letting go of the expectation that anything even needs to happen at all. And we're going to take 3 more rounds. Invite the breath to wash through the mind. Invite the breath to wash through the emotional body. And just welcoming so much fresh prana in. Feel each breath bringing in life force energy. When you get to that last breath, breathe out the left nostril. Exhale out the left nostril. And then place a hand on your heart. Breathe fully in through the nose. Hold the breath at the top and set an intention for wanting to explore your inner critic today. What is that purpose for being here and present in your body, connected to your heart today? And then exhale, let it go, plant it down like a seed into the earth, planting this seed of intention in your heart. And then inhale. And then just exhale, shoulders drop. And we're going to start to work with Basrika breathing. So begin to open your eyes. And we're going to begin to activate the heart space today with some sound, with some movement, and with our breath being a powerful tool of transformation. Are we feeling more grounded, more calm, more present after practicing that anulom vilom breathing? Are we ready to bring in some activating qualities here? How are we feeling? What's on our hearts today? Drop a word in the chat. Let's gauge the energy in the circle today. All you really need, right? Sometimes it's the simplicity. 7 to 8 rounds of some anulom vilom breathing first thing in the morning. So helpful. I feel at ease, feeling your heart open. So now we're going to work with a bit more of a vigorous breath. I really love to use this breath when things are just feeling super heavy, when things are maybe feeling very overactive, possibly a lot of intrusive thoughts coming on. And I just want to like throw all of the stuff overboard. And we carry a lot of responsibility, a lot of noise, a lot of projection, right? In this upper area of ourself, the heart, the throat, all the way up to the third eye and the crown. Right? So when we're not in a place of attunement with our heart, when we're not in a place of connection with our voice, being able to really hear that voice of source, that voice of our intuition, honoring that gut instinct can have a little bit of static and feel a little chaotic. And there's different ways that you can invite breath in, you can invite sound in to move energy. And Basrika breathing specifically is one that I really do enjoy. So we've got to shake things up, right, for new things to settle in life. So when it comes to healing the inner critic, it is about interrupting patterns. So know that if there's any sensation that comes up as we practice this breath, just stay with it. Let it be an opportunity for you to have some curiosity and be gentle with yourself. Know when you're stretching yourself past your edge, right? And you're hitting a growth zone. And then know when you're taking yourself out of that growth zone and you're actually not honoring what feels most supportive and nourishing to yourself. So there's a difference between stretching your edge and then forcing yourself. So, in any way, if you need to take a break and get back into this breath, allow yourself to hold yourself. You know what you need best. I'm just here to be a guide. So, the chant that I'm going to introduce here is Ma, Ma. And right, we're women, we're here, we're coming together in circles. So let's welcome in this beautiful divine mother energy, as the feminine energy is that energy that permeates and creates life, right? It exists within everything. The declarations, the intentions, the dreams, I give it to the mother, as well as when I'm needing to be held and looking to resolve something, I give it to the mother. So, this mantra is such a beautiful way to really connect to that feminine energy. I received this mantra from Amma years ago when I went to see her at a darshan. And it has just been a mantra that has always impacted me in such a profound way over the years. And many, many, many yoga trainings later, I have also witnessed this mantra come up in my yoga trainings. And I was like, oh my goodness, how cool. This is something that's already so close to my heart. And I love to share this mantra with others too. So, just giving a little context on the power of ma, right? We all come from the mother. We've all come from our mother's womb or a womb, right? Depending upon if we were adopted or whatnot. All right. Or maybe we have legal guardians. All right. So you're going to create a fist. We're going to inhale. You open your hands and then you exhale, ma, right? So we're pulling and drawing this beautiful life force energy into our body. And then we're opening up, right? I'm receiving and then I'm welcoming it in, right? Or I'm letting go and I'm welcoming in something new, right? So everything always comes back to power of intention. All right, so you may feel some sensation here as we get some energy and some blood flowing in this heart chakra, this beautiful anahata chakra that we all have here. All right, so this, we inhale, exhale, ma, 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 ma. You continue to breathe as I come in and offer some guidance. Ma, ma, ma. Awakening that mother aspect of yourself, your ability to soothe, nurture, and know what you need, calling in that divine feminine energy to support you, and just allowing yourself to really connect to this mantra, ma, ma, ma. Opening yourself up to the divine energies of Mother Earth, Pachamama. Truly, Mother Earth sustains and provides for all of life. And that's a mystery school code. Feel that the Divine Mother provides and sustains all of life, all the resources needed. From the ground to the chair to wherever you are sitting, it has been sustained and provided for from the earth. So just know that you can go to her, you can receive her in all your forms and be loved unconditionally. Ma, ma, ma. 1 minute. Ma, 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 ma. Charge your heart with that frequency of the mother, of the feminine, of that art of the beauty way to be in tune to your intuition, to flow with your inner knowing for 3, 2, 1. Hands come to the heart. And just breathe. Stay connected to your heart space. Allow whatever sensations to just be, whatever feels most alive to arrive. And not needing to change or fix anything, but simply just holding space, offering that presence. One more round. ma, 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 ma. Maybe find even a little bit of a deeper tone. Ma, 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 ma. Bring it all the way down to the base of your spine. Feel yourself drawing in so much fresh life force energy. Fill your body up with so much fresh life force energy. Ma, ma. This reciprocity with you, your breath, with nature, with life, this dance within your existence. And just allow yourself to breathe. Ma, ma, ma. 1 minute. Ma, 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 ma. Dance with your edge. Dance with your ability to tap in to stretching your window of tolerance. Maybe some temporary discomforts arriving. Can you allow yourself to be with it? To allow what's here to be here for 3, 2, ma. 1. Hands at the heart. And as your hands are at your heart, begin to reflect on a time where you feel your inner critic has been present. Just come into your heart, feel that heartbeat pulsing at your palm. Allow your heart to take you on this journey of meeting your inner critic. And just begin to notice, begin to name that voice of your inner critic. It can be harsh, it could be demanding. You want to control and have expectations, maybe playing small. And just start to identify the ways that your inner critic shows up for you. Begin to witness this part. And as you witness this part, not in a way where you're merged with the inner critic's experience, just seeing it as a part, let it present itself to you. So witness it. Give it a little hello. And is there any resistance in witnessing the inner critic? Or are you open? Are you curious? Are you engaged? Or are you wanting to exile or ban this part? Tune into yourself as you start to bring the inner critic forward. What comes up for you? Is there any sensations, anything occurring in the body? Are you feeling any constriction physically in the muscles happening? We're just going to take 3 more breaths to really start to draw in and connect to the inner critic here. Knowing that the ways that your inner critic shows up to protect you, to keep you safe, is very unique to your own experiences. When you're ready, you'll slowly open your eyes. And just bring your hands down. Maybe you journal on your paper, that voice of the inner critic. Maybe you feel brave to share it in the chat if there's a way that your inner critic shows up. Like, my inner critic will go into comparison, right? And then I know when that's coming up, there's a part of myself that gets to be seen, is desiring to be acknowledged. Growing up, having a learning disability and growing up in a mixed household with lots of step siblings and switching up my environment a lot, there was a lot there around needing to compete for attention, right? There's a lot of comparison patterns around maybe who's better than me, who's smarter than me, right? So when that happens, I understand that younger version of myself that is saying, hey, I need some attention right now. Can you connect with me? And then I sit with her. So what ways does your inner critic come up? It's not about never having one. It's about learning how to live with your inner critic in a way where the inner critic is in the back seat. They're no longer in the driver's seat. Thank you for sharing that. Needing immediate validation. And if I don't get it, then it means I'm not enough. How often are we seeking that outside validation, that instant gratification? Such a common thing that we experience collectively. So, the ways that you can start to identify the voice of the inner critic is when we're in a story, right? Because when the inner critic there's a story. There's a story about a story. There's a feeling about a feeling. There's a catastrophizing about the situation. And typically, the story and the narrative that's running is stemmed from a past experience. And then it starts to want to define a sense of safety and control moving into the future. Right. So when we get present with our inner critic and we start to notice, does this narrative feed my joy? Does this story actually model the very thing that I am declaring? So the inner critic is a scared part of ourselves. It's a part that is afraid. And the more that we can understand when the inner critic comes up, that actually it's just a very terrified part of ourselves, we get to sit with that part of ourselves and give that inner child the love and the attention that she deserves so that she can continue to keep her heart open so that she can dream big. She can lean in and stretch herself to do the thing that feeds her joy. So, in the beginning, when the inner critic really has a strong grasp on you, you've just got to go in and stretch yourself and do the thing that feeds your joy. Because the inner critic is going to keep you limited, it's going to keep you playing small, and it's going to keep you in a state of illusion and separation from that very thing that in your heart you want and your worth. So know that whatever it is in your life that feeds your joy, you are worthy of it. So, in having a curious and gentle approach, this is going to allow you to start to shift the relationship with your inner critic. It's a scared part that wants to keep you safe. How would you treat a scared little kid? How would you treat anybody that you love in your life, whether regardless of age? How would you treat them if they were scared and feeling unsure and unsafe in a situation? We would give them words of reassurance, right? One of the love languages, words of affirmation. So, this is where, when it comes to addressing the inner critic, there's this reparenting that's happening. There's the dreamer in you that can continue to dream new worlds into existence, the inner child. And then it's like, how do we provide and support that inner child along the way? When we start to reparent ourselves, we start to allow ourselves to make decisions in real time that allow us to take steps in a direction of where we can start to thrive versus operating off of survival patterns. It's safe to say that the inner critic was an experience that we had that was projected onto us from a situation or a circumstance that we've observed or experienced with other individuals. So you can see at times that sometimes that voice of the inner critic isn't even your own voice. It might be a family member's voice, or maybe a close peer growing up, or a teacher, or some type of situation that you had with another individual where there was a projection experienced. So when you start to do this inner work on yourself, you're also healing your entire ancestral line. And when we do this work and we heal ourselves and we begin to move forward and heal within our lineage, we also heal together collectively. Because the inner critic is a limitation. And the more that we choose to remove the veil of the limits that we cast upon ourselves based off of, a moment of time that we're choosing to allow it to define the rest of our future, this is where we get to interrupt the patterns. This is where you get to start to polish yourself and really start to look at the role that you play when story is happening. So when you're triggered, the inner critic is not too far behind. The inner critic may have an opinion about that trigger, but triggers are opportunities. Triggers are a chance for things to get polished. Think about when you buff something, right? It gets nice and shiny and it's clean afterwards. So our triggers are opportunities to also purify ourselves and our attachment styles and the beliefs that we have about ourselves. Because insecure versus secure attachment styles, well, insecure attachments are rooted in limiting beliefs. So it takes time to rewire the brain to operate on new neural pathways, especially if this inner critic has been in the driver's seat longer than it hasn't been. So when we flip our lid, when we're in a place of rupture, when we're in a place of shutdown or fight or flight or freeze or any other strong reaction, and we start operating from default and outdated patterns and behaviors, this is where we can start to really look at what is this specific pattern? What is this strategy that my inner critic is having that's trying to keep me safe from? So when we're finding ourselves reactive, how can we start to sit down or shake it out? Maybe sitting down isn't available, but maybe going for a walk is, or maybe co-regulating with a friend, not someone who's going to amp up and enable the situation, right? You need to know who those voice of reasons are when it comes to co-regulating, so that we don't get stuck in the victim mentality that the inner critic is creating. And when we can start to do that, we start to bring ourselves back online, because when we get reactive, the amygdala is triggered and we go offline. We're no longer operating from the frontal cortex, and now we are operating from these more primitive survival response patterns. So when this happens, we're moving from ventral vagal to a dorsal vagal, which can look like starting to shut down. I'm not enough. I'm not worth it. If only this would happen this way for me, right? Like, notice those victim stories that come up. That's not your truth. So there is something very much real happening in the body when the inner critic is present, right? That this is a part of the brain that is designed to keep us safe. So on some level, there is intelligence to our inner critic. At some point, we couldn't get out of a situation that created that story, so it was safer to think and believe that. And as we, mature and we go through adulthood and we start to have more agency over our environments and our choices, we then can begin to enrich ourselves in other ways. So we don't have to stay in that past experience. We don't have to stay in that timeline. We get to have radical responsibility in addressing the fear. We get to take responsibility in processing the emotions. So in meeting the inner critic, you ultimately get to understand what emotion is still trapped in your body for there to be that trigger response when you're feeling stressed out. So the inner critic can be activated during those fight, flight, freeze responses when we're going from a parasympathetic state into a sympathetic state. So that looks like going into a sympathetic state, strong reaction, resistance, outburst of anger, hypervigilant, right? So notice when you start to go into those states of mind. You may feel your heart rate increase, the blood pressure, the breath may change. There might be muscle tension happening in the body as the body's preparing to act for a threat. So when your inner critic is present and that harsh voice is happening and all the demands and whatever other narrative is happening, start to pay attention to what is happening in your body. Do you get a stomach ache afterwards? Right? It can start to shut down the digestive system. It can start to impact the reproductive system. So really taking the time to become aware of what's happening in our body is ultimately going to start to also give us more agency for stronger choice points. When you start to feel the shift in your breath, when you start to feel the muscles tighten up, before the full-blown narrative starts to happen, you can step back and begin to regulate your emotions. You can begin to allow yourself to feel the feelings without merging with the feelings, right? When there's intense feelings of fear or shame or anger towards yourself or another, this can make it difficult to think clearly, to make good decisions, and then it can lead to lashing out. So emotional regulation is key to freedom in anything. Free yourself of your emotions, and then you'll free yourself from the mind. You'll free yourself from the cage that we put ourselves in, and we will allow our heart to fully expand and open. So it's not about reinforcing those negative core beliefs, right? It's not about shaming the inner critic, but it's about reassuring them, like, hey, okay, we once experienced this. This is valid, right? We get to validate ourselves, most importantly, acknowledge ourselves, and then we get to choose to turn inward, connect to our heart, and then say, what do I actually really choose to believe for myself today? And then we get to act accordingly to that. So it's like training the puppy to sit on the pad or to go outside. The more times that you'd redirect that inner critic's harsh statements to what you actually believe to be true, you're waking up new neural pathways to begin to believe that, because you're redirecting your attention to what you're focusing on. And instead of focusing on reinforcing the negative beliefs, you're beginning to reinforce a belief that you are choosing to create for yourself, not one that was just, it is what it is. We experience what we experience what we experience in life in order to grow on a soul level. We all have different samaskaras and different karmic patterns that we get to clear here. And this is also where we get to rise and reclaim our truth and step into the sovereignty, the free will, the divinity that we are, and know that nothing in life is permanent, and that we can change our mind and we can reinvent ourselves as many times as we're willing to choose to do so. We've got to be willing to move towards post-traumatic growth. So other ways that the inner critic can try to keep us safe is by disassociating, numbing ourselves, right? So those intrusive thoughts, right? Getting all up in the head, lost in the story. You're all the way like 3 futures out in your timeline. You're no longer here and present and in your body. So when we're feeling overwhelmed, when we're feeling disconnected, when we find ourselves starting to space out, what can you do to hold yourself versus giving into that attempt to escape something that's painful and uncomfortable? Because if we try to outrun and escape the discomfort, what we resist will persist. So, in the reparenting of yourself, you begin to heal, you begin to soothe yourself, you begin to establish a secure attachment with your heart center, with your compassionate self, right? Having that loving awareness, having that loving presence is such an important part of breaking cycles. Sometimes our parents don't realize that the things that they model, right, can create more of a generational trauma and pattern. But our ancestors also pass on their wisdom too. So at some point, there was a stronger need to survive in order for the family line and the lineage to be where you are today. But not having the time to feel your feelings, continuing to stuff things under the rug, to continue to repeat things that don't serve, aren't going to allow us to heal and move forward in life. Right? We get to have the empathy and the compassion for those internalized voices. Right? We get to heal and release ourselves from these parts that are rejecting or attacking ourselves. We get to accept ourselves. And when we can meet our inner critic with acceptance, that's where the self-approval comes. That's where the not needing the validation and the reassurance from the outside world can start to get more quiet, because you've cultivated the self-compassion within yourself, that you're beginning to teach yourself how to develop the capacity to lead with kindness, to lead with nurturing your own needs first, because that scared part of you needs something. That scared part of you might need a hug. That scared part of you might need to be reminded of, like, hey, like in my case, you're not that bullied sixth grade anymore where you have to throw everyone's lunch trays away to sit at the table, right? I can be accepted by others, but it starts with accepting myself first. So we need to understand why we disown these certain parts of ourselves. Why do we exile certain emotions like fear or sadness or vulnerability as bad? And the more that we can start to integrate the parts that we've exiled or judged or banned, we begin to develop a greater remembering of the wholeness that we already are. Right? So when we're feeling that lack, when we're feeling that we're missing something, when we're feeling that we're not ever going to make the mark, we're sleeping. We fell under the veil of illusion, and we're forgetting about the wholeness that already always exists within us at all times at our heart. So it's so important that we restore our ability to soothe ourselves. How do you do that? Take a moment to journal that down. What are some things that help you soothe yourself? A bubble bath? Ooh, I come out like a brand new human being anytime I come out of the bathtub. So, what are those things that you need? Just like, right, babies have different cries, and eventually, like, parents know what cry is what cry. So, what do you need to soothe that little kid within you when she's having a temper tantrum? So, when we are hijacked by the inner critic, we are not in that ventral vagal tone. Right? So when the inner critic is present, when we want to access, restore, and heal states, self regulate through breath, through voice. Think about the inner critic, how closely it's connected to our throat chakra through the Vishuddha center, right? So, working with our facial expressions, working with different ways that we can possibly even release the tension in the muscles in the face and start to massage that vagus nerve. So when you find yourself shutting down, when you find yourself feeling defeated, when you find yourself wanting to retreat and close yourself off from the world, know that it's okay that you're going into dorsal vagal. Understand that something is happening in your body. And what can you do to bring yourself back to connection? This is where you build the strength in how you are inner parenting yourself. We can repeat the ways that we were parented, or we can start to decide, how do I want to provide for myself? How do I want to nurture myself? How do I want to be present for myself? How do I want to care for myself? And you get to decide how you want to parent you now. And it's not to discredit what you've experienced around your parents' parenting. We repeat what we know. So it's not a personal attack. So you get to model something different, something that you're choosing to get to know. And in doing that, you get to pass that torch on. So this is what will ultimately help you access a deeper understanding of yourself and your intuition and your wisdom, is through starting to let your heart center be the seat of how you show up with emotional maturity. Because it requires this level of developing yourself to get to a place of emotional maturity. And then you witness the intelligence that is available when we start to listen to our emotions. And when we start to direct ourselves to cultivating a more loving presence and bringing that loving awareness to our inner experiences, we begin to release the walls of judgment. We begin to release the ways that we armor our heart. And then ultimately, we rewire the brain to not operate on those loops. So we get to attune to ourselves so that our mind and our body can work together to serve our heart centered self, right? Really igniting that peaceful warrior within. Master your emotions. Peace and progress and patience are all not too far behind. So when we make peace with our inner critic, it allows you to start to form a kinder, more nurturing relationship with ourselves. We'll find that we may soften in our relationships and our demands and our judgments and our expectations and our assumptions of others, and the attachments that we have start to get a lot quieter. And we begin to stop trying to take responsibility for everybody else. And then we remember that the only person I have responsibility for is over myself. And I get to parent myself in a way where I feel free in how I'm pursuing my dreams and my intentions. So let's just take a nice deep breath with that. Let's take a big breath in. And on your next breath, reflect. What does it mean for me to reparent myself? One more breath, 3 magic breaths. What does it mean for me to reparent myself? Because at this point, right, those of us who are watching this, tuning into this, now you're aware of the inner critic. Now you have a choice point in life, right, to begin to witness what you choose to subscribe to. So, in this process of healing the inner critic, you get to meet your core attachments. You get to uproot what doesn't serve you so that you can form attachments that meet your needs for safety. So when you start to work with these core attachments of your inner critic, you're going to meet your unhealed child. So you get to nurture her. You get to allow that inner child to have a space to heal those wounds so that you can form a secure attachment style. This takes time. It takes patience. It takes up to 3 to 5 years of consistently really like working and dialing in on one thing to fully get that neural pathway to be operating on a new system. Patience. It's a journey of progress. Don't shame the trigger if the trigger comes up again. The trigger is coming up again because there's something else there that would like to be revealed and healed. So strengthen the relationship within yourself, to trust yourself, to develop the confidence that you have the ability to align with your values and your decisions. Because the inner critic creates separation from those values. The inner critic creates separation from that very thing that you're choosing to claim in your life. So the more that you honor your values, the more that you honor what a self-love journey means to you, and you start to trust and follow your own guidance, you expand. You stretch your ability to tap into growth zone. This is called you build your window of tolerance to where you can feel uncomfortable, you can feel triggered, you can feel boundary rupture happening, you can feel that harsh voice coming up, and you're no longer willing to stuff it down or disconnect or lash out at it. And you start to be able to sit with it and regulate your nervous system. The more that you regulate your nervous system, the more that you stay in your body, the more that you descend into your body, you ascend. You expand your mind and you tap into that state of prosperity consciousness. What is abundance to you? Why do you want to pursue what you want to pursue? Why do you care to create the intentions that you're creating in your life? Understand that so that you can choose to lean on those beliefs because you've cultivated a clear why within yourself that you're choosing kindness, why you're choosing acceptance, why you're developing a relationship with parenting yourself in a way that reflects your values. Because as we become adults, we get to decide, what are our values? What are our traditions? There are some traditions that maybe we very much do enjoy that has been enriched through our family lineage. And maybe there's other traditions and things that we want to do in our own way. So allow yourself to know that you can go there and that you can touch the fire and you can let that transform you in your life. You can allow yourself to release these trapped emotions. And the more that you cultivate the resilience and the capacity to hold more within your nervous system, you expand your pranic body and you say, I am open to life. You allow more life force energy in versus the layers and the armor, right? And the projections. And then you don't have the belief or the space or the even the correct story or narrative to bring that zest for life, to bring the passion to your projects, to allow creativity to blossom. So when we start to release trapped emotions, we start to tap into inspiration. We start to bring back more of this creative aspect of ourselves. We start to bring more of our vulnerability online. And when we start to dive into our vulnerability, when we start to ask those questions that our heart is seeking, those passions, those projects, that joy, that sense of wonder can start to come online. So allow vulnerability and play to be a part of accompanying your inner critic on the journey. Find the humor, right? Sometimes we just got to laugh at ourselves. Oh my gosh, there I go again, getting upset over the most silliest of things, right? So don't take life too seriously. Don't take your inner critic too seriously. It's a scared, younger part of yourself. Right? Think about little kids. They feel something, they move through the big tantrum, and then they go back to play. They go back to joy. They go back to not having that filter and censor. So allow yourself to continue to strip those parts of you, censoring yourself and filtering yourself, and just play. Have fun. Keep yourself in a place of social engagement through connecting to yourself, to your emotions, and giving yourself the permission to live freely. One where unconditional love is the guide. Do we let fear or love write the script? What you water will grow, and what you water with love will thrive. And the more that you water yourself with love, you cultivate this sense of belonging. You allow what you're calling in to start to have the opportunity to take root. You allow yourself to lay the foundation that is required for you to grow into that version of that loving, kind, worthy, deserving human being that we all are. So learn how to please you. Start to allow yourself to let go of the people-pleasing tendencies. Allow yourself to begin to free yourself from seeking the approval from others. Because the more that you can find the approval within yourself, the outside world isn't going to have as easy as an opportunity to take you out of your center. So when you reparent yourself, you're waking up compassion. You're leading with devotion. You're starting to allow yourself to soften. And you begin to be your best cheerleader in life. You get to cheer yourself on in the ways that you lead yourself so that you can thrive and truly live your most authentic expression. You are your own best healer. You know the answers. You know what you need. But you've got to take the time to sit with it, right? And pluck the weeds out of the garden so that you can get to the fruit. So trust that you'll blossom in time, right? Allow yourself to free yourself. Allow yourself to do the things that make you feel free, unveiling yourself from the illusion. Find forgiveness for those scared parts. Whether you're forgiving another person or forgiving yourself for choosing to take that on. Forgiveness will set you free because it's something that you choose for you. And in doing so, you shed the limiting beliefs and you begin to unveil your true self and live not for fear, not for shame, but you get to live in a way where you're coming home to the worthiness within yourself that's unbreakable, that fearless expression, that radical responsibility. That's what happens when you begin to heal your inner critic. You start to live from your heart's highest calling and you begin to show up with embodied purpose. And you allow your reason to feed your heart, to feed what matters most to your heart, to be that thing that puts you into action. So we've got to be compassionate with ourselves. We've got to take the time to make the journey from the inside out. Because when you start to clean up your inner well, that's what begins to reflect out back to you. Everything is energy. So what energy are we putting into motion? And the inner critic will put us in that path of resistance. There's value on the other end of healing the inner critic. It allows you to soar to new heights. It allows you to experience boundless joy. And it doesn't always mean that when you're doing the thing that feeds your joy, that we're always going to feel joyful while doing it. But the reason why we're doing what we're doing is because it does give us joy. Whether it's stretching us to learn and grow along the way, that's where the edge is, that's where the uncomfortableness can show up. But if it is in alignment with your values, go for it. Serve that. Be a servant of love. Because when you serve love, you can't help but receive that back. And it starts with loving yourself, not needing to get it from the outside world, but remembering that you were made in God's perfect image, right? So you get to allow yourself to be your authentic self. Be bold, stand out of the crowd. It would be so boring if we were all like each other. If we were all like each other, there wouldn't be enough space for everybody to take up space in the ways that is true to their soul's calling. So take up space. Every single individual has a unique gift and talent. Whether it takes shape in a career path or whether it takes shape in the ways that you serve your daily hobbies and community spaces, whatever your authentic expression is. You can live and do whatever it is that you want, but it starts with you choosing to love the little kid within you enough to say you can dream again. There's no dream too big for you. You want to be an astronaut? Great, go for it. How many times when we were younger, we were maybe had the experience of like, no, but what are you really going to do? I wanted to be a pop star, right? At one point. And look, there's a lot of people doing what they want to do. Actors, pop stars, dancers, like just look at it. Like there's people who are living what would maybe say, yeah, that's not an attainable dream. But is it? It is attainable. It just requires a radical belief on your end. And you can't look to anybody else to reassure you your beliefs, because your beliefs are your beliefs that reflect what you need to grow and thrive in life. And what you need is unique to what someone else may need. So look within yourself. And that is how you trailblaze a path that is yours. And then you stop living for others. You stop waiting for the permission slip to go do that thing that you want to do. And you give yourself the permission slip to lean in, stretch, take a leap of faith, and it'll all work out. But you get to build that way of being a reliable person for you to lean on. So if you make this agreement of, I'm going to choose to start to parent myself this way, I'm going to choose to start to take care of myself and meet myself in these ways and soothe and nurture myself, well, then it is also your responsibility to make sure that you show up in that way, because that's how you build the new belief systems, is through the embodiment of the action, so that you can walk your talk. And when you show up from that place, you're showing up ready and willing. Everything outside of you, right? It's a law of nature, then can say, all right, I'm ready to go all in on you too. All right. So, how's everyone feeling? Let's drop a word in the chat. Where are we at? How are we feeling? What's alive on our hearts? Motivated. Yeah. We're feeling good. Right. So the inner critic really isn't that scary to sit with, realizing that it's just a scared, afraid part. Now, do we feel intimidated when we think about sitting down and connecting with our inner critic? Or do you feel that you can have the compassion to really hear out what it's trying to communicate to you now? All right. So, we're going to move into a forgiveness meditation, and we're going to bring compassion and grace to our inner critic. So, as we take our final time here, let's just start to close our eyes, just letting all those words, all those codes just drop into the body. And just exhale out. Really come into this exact moment. And on your next breath, I want you to visualize your feminine mother aspect of yourself coming forward on the left side of your body. And then I want you to call in your father aspect on the right side. And then in the center of your heart, begin to invite your inner child to step forward. And as your inner child steps forward, the mother aspect of yourself places a blue cloak on your inner child, just wrapping you in this beautiful blue cloak, just feeling yourself wrapped in so much grace and compassion. And just start to breathe these blue hues into every cell of the inner child, giving grace and compassion washing across every version of your younger self. And as this blue light settles into every past timeline, just washing so much grace across time and space, you begin to invite your inner child to look up and at your inner mother. And you begin to make eye contact with each other. And just begin to invite your inner child to let your mother self, this ability to soothe and nurture yourself, to meet your needs, know, what do I need from you? What ways can I feel supported by you? And maybe notice if there's an openness, if there's maybe feeling shy or closed off. As your younger version, your inner child begins to connect to the mother aspect of yourself and really, really take the time to let her know what you need. Take a few more breaths, just allowing this vulnerable sharing from your inner child's heart to the divine mother within you, to really be open to hearing and receiving what's being shared in this exchange. And she continues to tuck you in this beautiful blue cape, this cloak of compassion and grace. And she begins to step back. She's just tucking you in a little bit more, feeling this cloak hugging the edges of your body. As you begin to bring your gaze to the right, looking up and at that father aspect of yourself, the ability to act and align in the ways that you get to be provided for, to take action, to lead. Notice how your inner child connects with your inner father, making eye contact and just opening up to the father within. What is it that you need to take action? What is it that you need to allow yourself to be provided for in a way for you to align and attract from a place of responsibility and self leadership? Let your inner child know, what do you need to be provided for? What ways can you begin to provide for me? In this dance of holding, this grace, this ease, this gentleness can begin to bridge and happen here. In the subtle knowing of what way does this union of the inner child and your inner parents want to take shape. It begins to wrap you even more firmly, just feeling the edges of this cape, the structure of this cape and the ways that it wraps around the neck and drapes down the shoulders. And just allowing whatever structure that provides the support to begin to take shape. And you begin to allow your inner child to draw her gaze into her own heart. And you begin to let your inner child connect with the voice of this inner critic. Where is this story rooted in? What age is she? Whose story, whose projection, whose limitation of experience does this come from? And you're feeling the parents on the right and on the left, just holding their strength, holding their presence with you. As you go to the core root of this wound of the inner critic, where this scared, start to go to that core root of the story of that inner critic's harsh voice, demands, judgments, whatever it is for you. Say, when was the first time I experienced this emotion, this tie, this attachment to this story? And just begin to let yourself know, I love you and I'm here for you now. Whether you need to forgive yourself or the other person or the situation, just begin to notice what your capacity is to begin to forgive, to begin to resolve, to dissolve this. Do you get to forgive yourself for choosing to carry it, to let it define you? Or do you just get to choose to forgive? Hey, I'm not there anymore. That was then and this is now. I'm willing to forgive and to have the compassion to move forward. And just take 3 breaths, just inviting forgiveness to drop into every cell of your body. Inviting the peace, the freedom, quieting of the inner turmoil that can come when we just, I forgive, I let it go, I bless and release this. Thank your inner critic for the ways that it has kept you safe all these years. Thank you for working so hard for me. But you can rest now. Invite your true nature, your heart, your core self into the driver's seat. Feel yourself fully come into your body. Really feel yourself step into your body. I'm coming into my command center. I'm coming into the truth of my heart. And there's still space for you, inner critic. You can rest. You can go in the back seat now. My heart is the GPS now. Thank you for getting me all the way up to this point in the destination. And just see yourself getting into the driver's seat. Feel your parents there encouraging you. Maybe feeling this, learning how to drive for the first time. It feels a little nerve-wracking to be in the driver's seat of your life, but you have everything you need within you to be supported and provided for at this time of the journey. Breathe that in. I have everything I need within me to be provided for at this stage of the journey, within and around me. Feeling that very spirit of breath, that very essence of life coming into the body, pumping through the heart, oxygenating throughout the entire body. And just visualize your inner critic going into the back seat, inviting the parents to hold space for the inner critic. And just say thank you and willing to build a relationship with you. One where we can begin to understand each other now. And in doing so, I allow there to be space to let go of what was, so what can be can emerge. So let your inner critic know, hey, something else can be. And just allow yourself to connect to your heart and whatever that intention is that you had for yourself today. Allow yourself to be with that intention one more time. What is it that your heart dares to pursue? Let your inner critic know, hey, we're going for it. You don't need to keep me safe anymore. I've got everything I need at my heart to take over from here. Take one more breath. Offer any other words of wisdom that you would like to share from your heart to your inner critic. And just approaching this gently in the way that you're parenting yourself. Just letting these words of wisdom land into the body even more deeply, allowing that to take root. And you begin to take this blue cloak of compassion and you begin to wrap it up. You begin to fold it and you begin to place it in your heart. And know that any time when you feel yourself wanting to armor, to protect, to flee, or feeling a little scared, you're feeling that inner critic wanting to come hijack the present moment. You can come to this blue cloak of compassion, wrap it around yourself, feeling the warmth, the textures, the silkiness, the richness that comes when we give ourselves grace to just be a part of your practice and holding space for your inner critic, to place your superhero cape on, one that allows you to lead with grace in your truth, to lead with compassion in your expression, but most importantly, to soften what feels hard or uncomfortable. Allow grace to be that very thing that soothes you. And as you wrap this cape up, you place it in your heart. You close the sacred door, the sacred drawer of your heart, and you remember the grace and the love that you are. And you begin to repeat 3 times as you remember the grace and the love that you are. I am that, I am that, I am that. That I am, that I am, that I am. I am love. I am grace. So it is, so it is, so it is. Take a big breath in. Bless and release the inner critic. Bless and release this time and space here. Thank all that has come. Thank your body. Thank your brain. Thank your heart. But most importantly, thank your higher self. Thank spirit and your ancestors. I'm just thanking this intention of yours, allowing this intention to allow a deeper purpose and meaning to take shape from here moving forward. To really breathe life into that very intention is your responsibility. And just feel the excitement that comes with being able to have the responsibility to create your own masterpiece from here. It's not about never having the inner critic come take a seat at the table. It's about learning how to hear that scared part out with compassion so you may continue to move in the direction of safety and true security within yourself. Take a big inhale and then exhale out. Visualization slowly fading away, feeling your inner parents coming into the heart, filling up the left side of the heart, right side of the heart. Maybe you start to find some stretches as your inner child takes a seat in the center of your heart. Mind, body, spirit, trinity of three. May balance, health, and prosperity be. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Take a look around. Gently come all the way back as you look opposite direction. And making your way back and into shared space. Maybe dropping a word in the chat how that was for you. It's been such a pleasure to lead you all, those catching the replay. Your spirits were very much felt and received here today. Feel free, those are also catching the replay, to, share your voice. Let me know how that was for you. But thank you, everyone who is here live. Thank you, everyone who's catching the replay. It's been such an honor to share this space with you today, as we're not immune to these parts of ourselves, but we get to cultivate deep devotion to love every single fiber of ourselves. And then things have less of a charge. The trigger doesn't define us anymore. It allows us to refine and redefine the life that we're creating. Triggers are an opportunity to redefine what we choose to create. And in taking those moments to start to pause and get to know yourself more intimately, you begin to put new energy in motion. And that's where our power and the present moment begin to bridge new worlds into existence. And you are so worthy and deserving of that. Thank you so much. It's been such a joy. Until we meet, I do have a free meditation every Friday for 30 minutes at noon Central Standard Time. And we also have a community membership that you can get involved with, where we meet weekly. And I will be sharing more details around an all-women's 16-week course in the next email that you ladies will be receiving, where we will be circling together for 16 weeks around the art of the feminine way, and really allowing ourselves to awaken to this radical sense of devotion and living more meaningfully and purposefully in the ways that we take charge of ourselves. So I'm really excited about that. We'll be starting that next week. So know that if you have questions, you can always reach out to me via email. Thank you so much.